What's going on YouTube? So a short time ago, we first reviewed the refreshed 2026 Honda Pilot, one of the most important family three-rows. But in that review, we were looking at the fully loaded Elite model. And today we're going to be reviewing the volume selling trim level, the EXL. And we want to know, is this the best value Pilot that you should buy? Let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so let's kick things off here with a spec dump. So under the hood of the EXL, you'll find the same engine as any other Pilot. It's a 3.5 liter V6 engine making 285 horsepower. It's paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission, and our combined fuel economy with all-wheel drive is 21 mpg.
Now the base price of this trim level is $44,500, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, we have quite a few different things to show on that test drive. We'll talk about the powertrain as well as get things like our sound level reading.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood so we can see what the exterior and interior deliver at the EXL trim level. So like we mentioned at the beginning, the Pilot was refreshed for 2026, and really the main thing Honda did up here with the front end design is just make this look a little bit tougher. You'll see that the grille itself is more squared off and pronounced than it was last year, and they've also added this more aggressive lower fascia here, which I think makes it look a little bit more off-road capable. Now, there are a little bit of trim variations. With the EXL, you're going to get the simpler matte finish for the inside of the grille here instead of a gloss black, but you still have the gloss black accenting across the top, which leads you into the headlights. Now, the headlights themselves are the same across every trim of the Pilot. We have reflector full LED lights with your daytime running light at the bottom and your turn signal indicator at the top. And then one other thing that I'm impressed to see is that even though the EXL is one of the most affordable in the lineup, we still have LED fog lights. And as we walk around to the back, the 2026 continues with a pretty simple overall look.
Yeah, they've changed a few elements, but didn't rock the boat too much. We have a spoiler up here at the top, a rear window wiper. Pilot is actually spelled out in this kind of gray text. Makes for an interesting look. And as far as the taillights, let's take a look at these. So these are partially LED taillights, and they're standard across the board. So you have your LED brake light right there, incandescent reverse light, and incandescent turn signal. I wish they had made that fully LED this year, but as we drop down, I'm pretty happy with the diffuser area because we have exposed exhaust outlets in that kind of trapezoidal look. It can tow 3,500 pounds with front wheel drive or 5,000 pounds with all-wheel drive.
Now moving to the wheels, the EXL comes with an 18-inch contrast alloy wheel. This is actually going to be a little bit smaller than the base trim level, but as you can see, you get that contrast design, and of course, being a small wheel should also help you with the ride quality. We'll talk about that more later on. A little bit of molding around the wheel arches there, and in terms of our mirrors, every single Pilot comes standard with blind spot monitoring, and then the EXL is a trim level that adds heating.
Now let's talk about the side of the Pilot. Overall vehicle length is 200.1 inches, which is very big for this segment, that's for sure. And as far as design touches, all of our window surrounds are going to be finished in a black color. We also have black roof rails up here at the top. And as a matter of fact, roof rails are now standard equipment on every single Pilot this year. So I have to say I'm pretty impressed by that and happy because it does definitely make your design look a little bit more premium on your more basic trim levels. Now, as far as your safety systems are concerned, you have all of your active safety features as standard equipment on this model. That will even include things like traffic jam assist, and you have a new post-collision braking system this year. But guys, let's see all the value that you're going to get on the inside for this EXL. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we have reviewed over 2,000 vehicles at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from humble to high-end, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, let's get out of the cold and climb inside. First, here's our key fob. It's the typical Honda key fob. Smart entry and remote start are both included as standard features. That means getting in, you just grab behind the handle and that will unlock the door. Now, checking out the interior, just like with the exterior, you're going to see some updates that are more subtle, but I think they are meaningful on all trim levels across the lineup. But as far as what you get here with the EXL, let's turn our attention to the seats. So the base model comes with cloth seats, and then the EXL will upgrade you to these leather seats you see here. A little bit of cloth accenting and some color contrast stitching. Overall, they look nice, and they're very comfortable to set in as well. You can get these in black or gray. Regardless, they'll be power adjusting with two-way lumbar support, and EXL is also the trim level that adds memory seats to this. Now let's go ahead and climb inside. Let's get into the other cabin materials. Starting with the door trim, we have a leatherette padding through here with a stitching detail, leatherette through the center section, and soft touch plastic along the top. You can see that we have a black trim on this model. Some of the higher end examples for 2026 gain a faux wood trim. The top part of the dash is also soft touch plastic. Leatherette finishes the center section here with a stitching detail, and then down here in the lower panels, these are not padded. Now let's fire it up with the push button start. And now that it's all fired up, we can start with the gauge cluster. And this is actually something I want to highlight because new for 2026, Honda expanded the digital gauge cluster across all of the trim levels. So that means now on your more affordable models, such as this EXL, you get the full digital 10.25 cluster. As we move back to the steering wheel, we've got a leather-wrapped steering wheel on board. It's manual tilt and telescoping. The only feature you're missing from some of the more premium trims is steering wheel heating. And then let's look at interior storage. So of course, this really doesn't change between the trim levels, so you've got a lot of it no matter what. Now open up our center console to start with. You'll notice inside we have some donuts in there. That's because we like to do the signature donut test since that's our logo. And inside today we have 20 donuts. That is a very good amount, very solid. It misses the maximum 2 dozen by just a little bit, but very impressive stuff still. We also have 2 cup holders right there, nice storage cubby through here, and EXL gets the wireless phone charging pad. Plus you also get a passenger storage shelf. Now, as you can see, the shifter is the signature Honda push button style. Just press down D for drive. You also have paddle shifters on the steering wheel. Pull the trigger there for reverse. And there's our regular backup camera. That's what comes on the EXL trim level. It does have active trajectory, which is nice, and back parking sensors. You can change through different views, but the overall resolution is a little crusty looking. Press the P there for park. You also have an electronic parking brake with brake hold, and then your drive mode controller is right there. Now in the center section, the Pilot continues on with very nice physical climate controls. It's a 3-zone automatic setup across all trim levels. And as you can see, just adjust that very simply. You can also do the back climate controls as well. And then EXL comes with heated seats. Of course, you're not going to get ventilation unless you go for a very high-end example, but it is still nice to have the heated seats, especially on a cold day like this. Above the climate controls, we have a volume knob. EXL comes with the standard 9-speaker sound system. Let's give that a sample and see how good it is. Pretty impressive, actually. I am surprised there's not a huge difference between this and the 12-speaker Bose sound system. If you're not, a big audiophile, this will be totally adequate. All right, now let's zero in on another big improvement for 2026, and that is this new 12.3-inch display. Another feature that Honda expanded across the entire lineup, including this EXL trim level. Some of the big improvements, of course, are having more screen real estate, but also we have a software which has Google built in now for the very first time. So that means you have a native Google Maps, Google Assistant, and things like that. Once I agree to a few of these settings here, you can see what that looks like. And this will be included subscription-free for about 3 years. You also have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto abilities. Up top, we have an auto-dimming mirror, just don't have the HomeLink universal remotes. And then unlike a lot of Hondas, the EXL Pilot does not come with a standard size sunroof, and that's because the Pilot only offers a panoramic sunroof, and that starts on the Trail Sport trim.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the rear seats and see how practical this Pilot EXL is. Now, first and foremost, I want to talk about space figures because that's, of course, very important. 40.8 inches of legroom and 40.2 inches of headroom. Actually, as a matter of fact, you get more headroom since we don't have the moonroof on this model, so that's something to keep in mind. And as far as how it compares to the competition, that's going to be a very good figure. It's not exactly class-leading, but it's still very competitive. Now, this seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8". I'm 5'9", and we're looking at about 8.5 inches of knee space. Also, my feet can easily slide up underneath of the seats. Speaking of sliding, I can slide these seats forward and back a pretty good distance, and I also have the ability to recline to maximize my comfort. Now, as far as seating capacity, the Pilot is very unique and very cool in this regard because you actually have this middle seat that can function kind of like a captain's chair, so you can fold it down like that. You have 2 cup holders inside and a little bit of storage, or you can actually fully remove this seat and store it in the cargo area. So that's one of the very unique things about the Pilot, and I definitely love that. It's very practical for families. That means overall seating capacity is 8 passengers, or you can remove this and have on-demand 7-passenger seating. Now, let's talk about overall features as well. We have 2 vents right up here at the top, our own zone of climate down below, 2 USB ports, and that's going to be it for features on the EXL, but I do want to point out, new for 2026, the Trail Sport and above will have heated back seats. Now, if you look over at the door trim, very happy to tell you the EXL is where the rear sunshades start. As far as the rest of the materials, we have a hard touch upper part, but we have leatherette in the center section, leatherette on the armrest portion, and really a ton of door storage, so it's very practical when it comes to the storage. And let's go ahead and check out the third row. In order to get back here, it's super easy. You just press that button, and that's going to slide it out of the way. Just be aware that the seat back does move, and it does not tilt. Now, let's go ahead and hop back here. As far as third row space, the Pilot has always been one of the best in the segment. 32.5 inches of legroom, about 39 inches of headroom. So really the headroom is fantastic. The legroom is also one of the best in the class. And even with this seat slid all the way back, I'm still sitting at really about 2 inches of knee space. And like I said, I'm 5'9", so that's pretty impressive. My feet can slide up underneath of these seats as well. The only thing that I really wish that this Pilot had a little bit more of was thigh support. I wish the seat was raised a little bit more off the ground to make my thighs a little bit more comfortable. But as far as features, we're pretty well set as well. We have 2 cup holders right here. We have vents coming out of the side as well as a USB port. So overall, how this rates on the third row rating scale, I'm going to say that this is pretty solid for the segment, so this is fit for adults. Now, walking up to the tailgate, we have a standard power tailgate across the Pilot lineup. If you want the hands-free ability, that starts on the Touring trim level. And let's talk about overall cargo space. So what we're looking at is about 19 cubic feet of space behind the third row of seats. If we fold those seats down, which we can easily do, they're going to be a manual folding setup across the board. That's going to give us 49 cubic feet of cargo capacity. And if we fold those second row seats down, maximum capacity is sitting at 87 cubic feet. Now, as far as how that compares to the rivals, that is a good number for the segment, that's for sure. It's not class leading, but it is very good. And speaking of all of the rivals that this vehicle has, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've looked at all the 3-row midsize SUVs and ranked them in individual categories, things like cargo capacity, interior technology, luxury features, powertrain choices, and value. And you can see the best options in each of those categories so you can make an informed buying decision. Now, back to the Pilot, I do want to point out there are not any handles to fold the second row of seats, so I do actually have to go up there and do it manually. And now that I've got those seats folded completely flat, let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. This is a Car Confections review in case you're looking to haul something specific. From behind Drew's 5'8" seating position, we're looking at about 86 inches of overall length. From behind the second row of seats, about 48 inches of length. And from behind the third row, you can expect about 18 inches. Now, as far as the opening, it's pretty wide, that's for sure, 46 inches wide. And then the height is coming in at 30 inches tall. It's pretty solid. And then let's get our overall load-in height as well. 33 inches is your load-in height, so that's going to be a little bit tall. So just keep that in mind when you're loading things in. But one of the things I love is this underfloor storage area. This is actually where you can store that middle seat if you want to take it out on the go. There's also a spare tire underneath of here, and obviously this is enough space for you to put things like groceries or maybe some fast food if you don't want it stinking up the cabin. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the Honda Pilot EXL. In this test drive, we're going to be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things such as a sound level reading, but first we need to start with a hard acceleration so you can see what this V6 is all about.
That takes us up to 60 miles per hour in the Honda Pilot. So of course, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning. The Pilot actually just comes in one powertrain. That didn't change with the 2026 refresh. So you continue to find a 3.5 liter V6 engine, making 285 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. This is a pretty powerful engine. Power figures are pretty much in line with most of the competition, whether that be a V6 competitor or a turbocharged 4-cylinder competitor.
Yeah, and I have to say, just sitting here in the passenger seat, I love the refinement of this engine. I really think that that's one of the Pilot's strongest elements, is the fact that this V6 sounds and feels so refined even under hard acceleration. Especially compared to a lot of the turbo 4-cylinder rivals out there, I really do feel like this is a leg up. It feels more like an Acura MDX than some of the kind of grainy and whiny 4-cylinders that you can get in this segment, that is for sure.
Now, as far as the transmission is concerned, we've got a 10-speed automatic transmission. Shifts in this are nice and smooth. Honda uses this in several other applications, and overall, it's an easy transmission to live with.
Absolutely. Now, as far as how the power is routed to the ground, more trim levels for 2026 do come standard with all-wheel drive. However, the EXL is not one of those trims. So keep that in mind. You do have to pay extra for all-wheel drive on this version. However, if you choose a Trail Sport, a Touring, or Elite, or Black Edition, those will all have standard all-wheel drive. And let's talk about fuel economy as well. You might expect for the V6, as compared to some of the Turbo 4s, that you get a lot worse fuel economy. And I'm happy to tell you the answer to that is actually not really. It gets the same fuel economy as most of the Turbo 4s. With front-wheel drive, 19, 27, 22 mpg, and with all-wheel drive, 19, 25, 21. If you choose the Trail Sport, it goes down by 1 mpg combined. But overall, those fuel economy figures are very much in line with most of the other options in the segment. You just cannot get a hybrid. So that's the one thing about the Pilot, is it's one engine option. Hopefully you like it. It's this V6. You cannot get a turbocharged or hybrid option or anything like that, which is where some of the rivals will excel in giving you better fuel economy. All right, and we are speeding up to 55 miles per hour, so let's go ahead and get things like our sound level reading. Now, Honda did promise for 2026 that they added more sound deadening inside of the cabin of the Pilot, so we're going to be putting that to the test officially, because when we originally drove this car, it was back in California, so now we're back home in Kentucky, as you can see. 63.4 decibels is what we are sitting at as our sound level reading here in the 26 Pilot EXL trim level. Now, if you want to find out all of the sound level readings for the class, you can go to carconfections.com/sound level readings. We keep detailed records of all the models that we test out on the channel on there, and you can see how it compares. Now, as far as that sound level reading, that's definitely going to be on the louder side for the segment. honestly, I'm not too surprised to see that. Typically, that is the case for Honda products, even if they do promise to add more sound deadening to the cabin. They tend to be on the louder side, and also I do want to point out, they tend to also add more sound deadening and quieter cabin materials and stuff on the higher end version. So when you go for a middle trim or a lower trim Honda, you're typically going to get a louder cabin, so I'm not too surprised by that sound level reading, although I wish it was a little bit better than that. Now, one of the things that I am impressed by when it comes to this EXL Pilot is the ride quality. I think that's absolutely fantastic on this model. We've been spending all morning long with this version, and I have to say, the seats are incredibly comfortable. The suspension is tuned in typical Honda fashion to have a really comfortable ride over long distances. And since we have really kind of small wheels on the outside, those 18-inch wheels, that really increases your ride quality even more than I think the highest end versions of the Pilot. So if you want the best riding Pilot, I think this EXL actually might be it. All right, let's get into our slam dunk and airball, our favorite and least favorite element. I'll just go ahead and kick us off with the slam dunk and say that this Pilot EXL, we are pretty impressed with the amount of equipment that you get and also just the practicality. That's one of the favorite things in my book about the Pilot, is just how practical it is, and really none of that is sacrificed by choosing the EXL model, and I feel like you have enough features for you to be pretty happy in this model.
Yeah, for sure. But on the airball side of things, there are maybe a couple things that you could want for a price tag that's approaching $50,000 with all-wheel drive. For us, the big thing is that the wheels are pretty small, so it kind of makes the whole vehicle look a little bit on the basic side. And also, we wanted a sunroof for this price point.
And of course, we need to discuss pricing. So we start at around $42,000 for the Pilot this year. That's for the sport trim level. Now the EXL is going to start at about $44,500 with front wheel drive, and you can see the full lineup of prices on the screen right now, but certainly this is about $10,000 less expensive than a fully loaded example, so some big savings there. As you can see, we have the 26 Pilot all-wheel drive EXL, so that means we start at $46,595. We also have optional paint color, $14.95 destination. So all told, we're looking at $48,545. This particular model is manufactured in Lincoln, Alabama, so it's here in the United States. And if you're looking to buy a Honda Pilot or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that'll connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealership negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that down below in our video description, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's talk about resale, reliability, and the warranty. First up, let's talk about resale value. Honda as a brand is one of the very best in resale values. As a matter of fact, in 5 years and 60,000 miles, we estimate that it will retain 64.8% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 34.34%. Like I said, that is one of the very best. Actually, it is the best in the 5 year and 60,000 metric.
Honda is also one of the best when we talk about reliability. We of course have the Combined Reliability Index, and when we take into account the latest data, Honda is one of the top rated brands overall compared to other automakers.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability data, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a big decision, and part of that decision should be that, as well as the warranty. So let's talk about the warranty. 3 year and 36,000 miles for your basic warranty, 5 years and 60,000 miles for your powertrain, and you do also get 1 year and 12,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. And guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of the refreshed 2026 Honda Pilot in its volume-selling EXL trim level. We really appreciate you staying this far in the video, and we would really appreciate you subscribing down below if you enjoyed. Of course, we like to cover not just the top trims, but all the trims in the lineup. For those of you that don't want to spend a ton of money, and hopefully you found this helpful where we go through the specific features of this EXL. I promise you won't regret subscribing down below. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.